slightly intense, but definitely worthwhile conversations. A podcast focused on bringing people together by drinking, listening, and conversing. So grab your favorite drink and let's see what's on today's menu. All right, people, welcome to Peeps Creek, the cafe. You know, here at the cafe, we always have a conversation centered around a drink. And today, I am not drinking on any alcohol, believe it or not. I am drinking on H2O. And for those of you out there, I have this large bottle, but I started the process of putting stickers and all that on there. Look at that. Boom. Look at that. Bam. Pow. All right. Anyway, H2O. I'm your host, Sean. Of course, I don't know if I already said that because I have not been behind this mic in so long that I think I forgot what I am supposed to do. And I am joined in the cafe virtually by Denise. Say hello, Denise.
Hello, everyone. I need some type of makeup or something.
And what are you drinking on over there?
On a smoothie.
You gonna show the people, or no? You also forgot what it looked like, or is it in a cup that
It's in a cup that we can't show, yeah. Not that we can't show, but I'm not going to promote them.
So we are on, believe it or not, episode 88 is Let's Talk About Wendy. It is a discussion in regards to the Wendy Williams documentary on Lifetime. Now, full disclaimer, I am not a Wendy Williams fan, meaning I never really watched the show. The only time I watched the show is when there was a guest on there who I really like Pay the Bell or like
Well,
Let It Sing.
I didn't even watch it, period.
Oh yeah, I just watched it like when folks who I really liked was on there, so I never was in there, and I never really realized that she was on air
Me
doing
neither.
that TV show for like I think they said 12 years or something. So a very long time, and undoubtedly she definitely was a force to be reckoned with in regards to just her take on interview approaches and things of that nature, and just her no nonsense behavior on camera. I do recall her being on the radio show. I never listened to it, of course, because I wasn't in New York, but I do recall the little viral clip that was going on when her and Whitney Houston was getting into it on the radio, talking about drug use, because Wendy was trying to talk to Whitney about her drug use. And then Whitney, with her normal feisty self, was basically like, let's talk about your drug use. So anyway, they was
Oh,
going back
that's
and forth.
right, because Wendy did have at one time some drug abuse.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say the documentary, in my opinion, was discombobulated in some senses. It seemed a little odd in some places. It seemed like there were aspects of the recording that I thought should not have been done. In other words, I didn't feel like that she was in her right mind, just as a viewer looking in. Again, this is just me making an opinion based upon what I saw on TV. And again, I wasn't in the room with them. I don't know what kind of conversations they had. I don't know who all was in the room. But obviously, at the very beginning, it was a little odd. It starts off with her sitting in the big pink, purple looking chair. I don't know if that's the same famous pink chair from her show or not.
I think it is, because she keeps referring to it as, and there's my pink chair. Like I got my pink chair from the studios right there.
Right. So she comes off. Of course, she doesn't have any shoes on. She almost falls or trips over like equipment when she comes out of the room. She sits in the chair and she starts talking to the producer, whoever's asking her questions. And I don't know, she was just out of it to me. And like there was one point where she was talking about, I'm glad the show is over. That way I could just pull my breasts out if I want to. And can I show you my titties? And the producer was like, yeah, no, you don't need to pop those out. And then,
She still did, though. She literally still
right. And then there was a part where one of the producers asked her who Will Sebi was. And then she said that it was her friend, but then she started crying. But then to me, it didn't
No,
look
she
like
said
she was.
her sexy BFF
Oh
for
yeah, her
life.
sexy BF, best friend for life. Yeah, I do have that right now.
Yeah.
And she started crying, but it didn't look like she was crying. It looked like fake to me. But then I don't know when she is crying or when she's fake, because all of her cries look fake to me. But
It's so sad. I honestly think she did cry, though. I think she was overwhelmed, and she said, "Can I please hug you? Can you please come here?" And
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And then I don't know if he actually came or they just cut that
I think
out.
he did.
Okay. So For those of you who don't know, in May 2022, there was a financial guardianship that was granted in the state of New York in regards to Wendy Williams. Unfortunately, I can't pine on why that happened because the legal documents are sealed, so we can't get access to the legal documents. But the gist of it is that Wells Fargo, who was her financial institution, believed that there were some financial transactions that were occurring that led them to believe that she was being taken advantage of financially. And so they filed a petition with the court, which banks can do, indicating that there seemed to be a pattern of spending that insinuated that maybe she was being taken advantage of and was not within her right mind to make financial opinions. That was granted in May of 2022. And the backdrop of that is that prior to that, her son was operating as her power of attorney for funds. And when we'll talk a little bit about this, but as you go through the documentary, for those of you who have saw it or have not seen it, you would know that there are some discussions about some particular transactions purportedly that the son was making, which the son, full disclaimer, indicated that his mom had given him full permission to do so. But again, we can't say that's the only reason why Wells Fargo made the decision to petition the court with respect to her money, right?
Right, but
Uh,
I'm not very familiar with this whole financial guardianship and whatnot. But wouldn't they have called her first to inquire as her bank, hey,
Well, A, we don't know if they did that because we don't have the
that's right.
documents, and they didn't communicate specifics in regards to what transpired and who was communicating. But presumably, based upon the information that I can see from the documentary, I would presume that they did not. I presume that there may have been some interactions with her prior, where they maybe thought that she was not within her right mind to make the sound decisions with respect to her financials, right? And part of that, I believe, is accurate because as the documentary goes through, she talks about billions and billions of dollars. And the reality is that's not true.
You don't know.
No, it wasn't true.
You don't know.
It wasn't true because she indicated later on that it was like 13 million or something $1 million in the account. And she's never been identified as a billionaire. Now, again, those lists are neither here nor there, but Beyonce just recently become a billionaire. So I doubt Wendy Williams is a billionaire, but putting that aside. But the film started, the documentary began recording as of August 2022. And then something happened where they had to stop and where the filming had to stop because she was admitted into a
Right.
facility shortly after the initial filming. But prior to the cut, we do get a feel of her showing her feet because she has lymphedema. And for those who don't know what that is, I don't know medically, but it basically is like fluid inflammation and it caused some kind of deformities in some of your extremities. Primarily, I'm aware of it because of my favorite show, My 600-Pound Life, where mostly all of those folks have
Mm.
because of their weight and the excess weight and things of that nature. And a lot of people refer to it as like elephant foot because it looks like an elephant foot based upon it the way it goes. But what does she say? They asked her a question. This was at the beginning. This was before she went to the wellness center. What did she say in regards to why her sister wasn't there and her son wasn't there?
Because they have problems with her drinking.
And what did she say? Who did she say? What did she say she loved?
Oh, Tito Puente.
She said, "Because I love Tito Puente."
It was just so random
I'm
the
like,
way she
girl,
left.
were you listening to Celia Cruz over there?
No, I think
The
she
king
said
of timbales.
she said she hates that I love alcohol, and then she said, "But I love Tito
And I'm
Puentes,"
like,
and we both did like,
what? But
"What did that got to do with
I
anything?"
think she meant Tito's vodka.
Yeah, I think that's what she meant too.
Um,
Oh, poor Wendy.
so anyhow, so then it cuts off, and then she comes back, and I think she looks different when she comes back on camera after the wellness. Because remember, they showed the first part where they initially started filming her in August,
Oh, okay, gotcha. You
and
mean
then
after they stopped
correct
filming?
after
Okay,
they
yeah.
stopped filming, and then she was in according to the notes that I took, she stayed there for about 3 months in the facility, and then 2 months later, the filming began again. And that's when they brought her back and they put in front of her iPad where they show her footage of that first interview. And I think what they were trying to get at was trying to get her reaction to whether or not she saw anything alarming based upon her behavior in that interview. Do you remember what her reaction was when they asked her basically, what do you see?
I
Do you
don't think
remember?
she said anything. That she was just happy to be back on the cameras.
No, she said, yes, the wardrobe, the wig,
Oh, that's right. She did say that.
but she wasn't focusing on the erratic behavior that they were attempting to point her to. But what did you think?
I think at one point she was very emotional because I do remember them asking her about her son. I forgot his name. Is it Kevin?
Kevin?
And she began like crying and saying like ask me another question, ask me another question. But I do remember them also asking, was there anything that she didn't want them to ask her, or anything that she just wanted to be cautious about? And she was like, nothing is off limits, like no questions are off limits. But they also asked her, why do you want to film this documentary? And she said because she wanted to do something different in her 50s. I think she just missed being behind the cameras. That's what she keeps mentioning throughout the entire documentary. Her trying to get somebody to put her back on TV. But I think that she has so much going on at the same time, like 2021 with COVID and whatnot. She had lost her mom. They canceled the show. And the way
Mhm.
they canceled the show was like crazy too, because she was doing it from home, because they show you how she's doing it from home. She's has the chair in the house. She has the DJ helping her, DJ something,
Booth.
DJ Booth.
Mhm.
And then do you remember when they kept there was two guys. I don't know who the guys were,
They're
but they
part
were
of her
asking.
show. They're like I forgot on the show, they are like the camera folks and all that. But what I do remember about the show is that she would talk to the camera people and they would be part of the show as well.
And they asked her who was a person or something. No, she was talking about a person, and it's like she lost focus and like couldn't remember who the person was, and they corrected her and told her. So I just think that, when they came back to filming, she was just emotional. I think she was just going through a lot. She had just spent that time, and this is just my personal opinion, she had just spent that time in the wellness center, you know back in front of the cameras where you're asking her questions. But what she really wants to do is not sit behind a chair and answer your questions. She wants to be able to direct her own show. So I think she was just emotional.
Yeah, but she said that nothing was off limits. But remember, what was off limits is any discussion about the wellness, her stint at the wellness place. Like she
And
didn't
her
talk about,
son, the alcohol.
so she wasn't very forthcoming in regards to those issues. And I'm not saying that she was purposely not forthcoming,
Right.
right? But I think there were so many inconsistencies in what she was saying because she said nothing is off limits, yet there are a lot of limitations about what she was talking about. She said she was glad the show was over, yet she kept screaming she want her show back or she wants to get back on TV. And so for me, those were just little tidbits of telltale signs that there was something not connecting. And I can't say because I'm not I'm not therapist, I'm not a doctor, I don't have any kind of credentials in that regard. But as a person looking in at the documentary, something wasn't. It was like things were firing, but they were not connecting, and that kind of made me feel sad in some regards for her because I prior to doing this, I was doing some research, looking at just comments on social media. And the thing about social media is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it's so quick to get your stuff out there. It's a curse because folks are trolls on there.
Yes.
And some folks are not trolling, but they just feel like they have the opportunity to express themselves about what other folks are doing or other people's lives. And rightfully so, in the sense that, yes, I get it that she put this out there, right? This
Right.
documentary.
I don't think that she put this out there. I think it was, I don't want to speak because I don't know details, but I think it's her family who asked to put it out there because they wanted, you know, I don't know.
If you really want my opinion on it,
You think it
I
was the manager?
yes, 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 and yes. Okay. But putting that aside, I think the family wanted to get their perspective out because they remained silent on the blogs and they remained silent in the media about what they were doing and the things that they were trying to do with Wendy. And I think they found this as an opportunity, since they were doing it. This was an opportunity for them to put their perspective out, to highlight A, their concerns with the guardianship, right?
Right.
And B, their concerns about the lack of support that they felt that Wendy needed that she was not getting, even under this guardianship. And so I think they wanted to highlight some of the fallacies with respect to this whole guardianship. And I think I should stop here because we could parallel this, because remember, in the documentary, there was a segment that they showed from her previous show. So this is when stuff started going downhill
Hmm.
in her interviewing and her commentary on the show. Because remember when she was talking about Britney Spears' conservatorship,
Right.
and she was talking about Britney Spears' mom, Britney Spears' dad, and she was like deaf to them all. And it was at that point when she said that, that stuff started spiraling downhill with respect to that show, where people would call it into question her cognitive ability at that point
Right.
to engage in interviewing and to engage with the show, which was further elucidated when she began doing the no audience because of COVID, because she was
Right.
losing track, she wasn't focused, people didn't understand what she was talking about, and she was doing that interview with the lady from,
Oh, from the Shark Tank.
yes, and that just went downhill. I don't know what the hell she was talking about. She was talking about some
She
cats and
just
some cat
started like,
litters.
oh my God. It makes sense because I didn't watch her show, but at that time I was on Instagram and they would post a lot of what happened with Britney, how she would be talking about the Britney stuff.
Mhm.
And then all I started seeing after that, because a lot of people started calling her out when she started saying that stuff about Britney.
Right,
But then I remembered them all of a sudden, it was like they had new hosts and they just announced that she was taking a break.
right,
And then
correct.
a lot
For her
of
health reason.
yes,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they canceled the show. It was just like, what is really going on?
right. Okay, so but there were, you mentioned the death of her mom, which I figured that was a theme throughout for her,
Yeah.
throughout the documentary at least. Her inability, I think, to cope with the death of her mom. But also DJ Booth, who I really liked, by the way,
Yeah, me too. I felt he was sincere.
very sincere in my
Yeah.
perspective. But he was talking about how also her divorce took a toll on her. And you want to talk a little bit about that? Because her nephew also talked about that, about kind of what he saw as a result of that.
I don't remember what the nephew said, but honestly, I don't know. I feel like I don't think the divorce impacted her that much, only because throughout the documentary, they asked her, and I can't remember if this was on the first section before she went to the wellness center or after, but they asked her about the divorce, and her friend was talking. Do you remember the friend? I can't remember her name.
Yeah, the friend is, oh, I didn't write her down because she wasn't really talking about a lot. Oh,
Regina. How
Regina
her
Snell.
friend started mentioning that Wendy had her suspicions that something was going on because he was photographed with someone on some type of magazine or whatnot.
Mhm.
And then she went and asked, he came back and said something to her, and she was like, is she pregnant? And the man, her husband, told her yes. And that's when they separated or divorced. But the way Wendy spoke about it was like, yeah. And after that, like, that's it. Like, that's the last thing you can do to me, and that's when the divorce. But I don't feel like the divorce itself impacted her. Maybe something else about the divorce, if she had to pay him, or but I don't think the divorce itself affected her as much as the death of her mom, not having her best friend there with her.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, again, because I didn't talk to her.
Yeah.
But Travis Finney, which is
The nephew, I like him
who,
too.
oh my God. I first of all, I'm just, let me just say this. I really appreciated
Mhm,
the nephew, the niece, Alex Finney,
mhm.
and the son, as well as the sister.
The sister at the end, I think, yeah.
They were very, I hate to use this word, but they were very articulate in the sense of not how they spoke, but more so about how they recognized the issues and spoke about the issues
Yeah.
and connected the issues to the concerns that they were having with Wendy, which I really appreciated. And it wasn't as if I didn't get the sense that there was concern about money. There was concern
Right.
about this. I think the concern, at least as it was presented in the
Her
documentary,
health.
was her health and her
Yeah.
well-being. But one thing that the nephew did say was that he said, "I have my issues with my uncle," talking
I
about
remember him saying
Kevin,
that.
right? But what he said was is that the divorce, and I think DJ Booth also said this, as well as Will, which is her manager,
Mhm.
that they did see a decline of her as a result of the divorce. And the nephew specifically said is during that time that she would come home from the show, she'll come home and get a bottle of liquor, and they would not see her until the next day. And it was the husband who Travis, who is the nephew, indicated had always made sure she had her shit together. So even if she was engaging in these extracurricular activities, drinking, drugs, I don't know what was going on, her husband made sure that she was prepared, showed up to work, did what she was supposed to do. And when he was out of the picture, that that guardian, or that I guess like the her savior, or like her
The
champion,
person that got her in check.
right, was no longer doing that. So
Yeah, but I don't
because
think it affected her. I think that I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think that they made a valid point of he kept her doing what it is that she needed to do at the times that she needed to do it. But by him no longer being there, she was on her own. She had no one to do it for her. So free will, I can do whatever I want. I don't have nobody on my back. I don't have no one telling me I can't have this drink, because she drank way before being in a relationship with him. So
right,
now that he's not there, let me drink all I want because I don't have nobody stopping me from drinking, you know?
right, but it sounded to me, and again, just because when I went through my breakup not too long ago, it affected me, right? You saw me at a place that I never was in, right? And I don't
Right.
even know why it affected me that much, but it did. And so there are times where
Or
things
worthless. Let me stop.
there are times where things impact you where you don't know it, and you turn to vices. And so I guess what I'm getting to is that the divorce, the reason I say the divorce, I believe the divorce impacted her, is that it caused her to then use other vices that deteriorated how she behaved. Because if you get a bottle of alcohol every day and you drink your entire bottle of alcohol every day, obviously you're using that to as a coping mechanism for whatever you're going through. And to go into a room and people don't see you all day
Mhm.
and you're not eating, there's no food in the refrigerator, right? There's discussions about there no longer being food available. Because remember when, and we're jumping, but I don't think we can go in chronological order of the documentary anyway. But when the niece comes, it was getting ready to come and visit her, there was discussion with the niece where the niece was saying, "Oh, I can't wait to see her. I'm gonna have this big hug. She's gonna say there's food here." But the reality was is that during this time
Nothing.
period, there was nothing. And they were concerned. And when I say they, the family was concerned that she was just drinking, and she was also just eating like Big Macs from Burger
Right.
McDonald's. Is that Big Mac is McDonald's, right?
Yeah, Big Mac. Is it? Oh my
Yeah.
god, now
Yeah,
you
yeah.
got me questioning.
Big Mac is Whopper is Burger King.
That's right. I don't know.
Uh
I just think that he regulated how much she drank, but didn't stop it. I don't think she ever truly. I don't know. I don't know because I don't know her, but it was just my impression from what they were talking. It's just sad altogether. I again, I've never watched the show, so I can't really. I don't have a picture in my head of that lively person that did the show that I
right.
can compare it now and be like, wow, what a difference. But just seeing her in the state that she's now, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's sad. The whole documentary, I was just sad.
Yeah. So there was a question that I wrote on here while we were talking about the alcohol. And
Mhm.
so I wrote on here, could alcohol be the cause of Wendy's health issues? Sean Zanotti, who was a publicist, first of all, let me just say, I don't know what that girl was doing. It, however, I know after the documentary came out, she went on social media and basically was saying that they were trying to make her be seen in a bad light. But I was basically saying, girl, the questions that you were asked, your answers put you in a bad light. Like, do you remember when they asked?
Her actions itself put
Right.
her in a bad light. Like, what was her purpose of being there? Because she's a publicist. So,
I
so
don't. I
what was
have,
the purpose of her being in the show?
don't know. I have no idea. But remember when the producers asked her, "Do you think Wendy has a alcohol problem?" And she was
No,
like, "There's no issue.
she can
Yeah,
control herself.
she can control
She knows
herself."
when to stop.
And I'm like, "Girl, no, she can't. These people are in here going around the house finding bottles and toilets and here, there, and they try to pull out liquor and this, that, and the third." And her nephew, Travis, basically said that it's clear that she has an alcohol problem. And he gave the example of after she was placed in the guardianship, apparently there was some kind of videos of her sleeping in stores in the
Yes.
bed with alcohol next to her.
And they show it on the documentary.
Yeah. So I posed that question, and
But wait, before you even pose the question, and she was the publicist at the time because she even mentions it that
right.
she had to put a story out about it. Like, you know what's going on. Like, you just
But
want,
I thought she said that she didn't respond to that because she said, "Why
or
respond to it?
something
Because
like that.
why
Yeah.
respond to it? Because if you respond to it, people are just going to run and do this, that, and the third." Yes, but
So
she
that
was the
tells us she
publicist.
knew.
Duh.
I think she just wanted to be there just to get some type of fame,
Yeah, yeah,
honestly.
yeah.
Sorry, what was your question?
Uh, so based upon what you saw, do you think that alcohol was the cause of the any of the issues? Because several people made the commentary about that, but what just you watching as a viewer, what would you say?
I think it's everything just everything was just bundled together. I think that like they kept mentioning, COVID happened. She had to stay home. She recently had just gotten divorced. She lost her mom. You know, she's taking so much medication because of the lymphedema, her thyroids, just too many things going on. I don't necessarily think it was the alcohol is the only thing that affected it. I think it's so many other things. I think the alcohol is just how she started coping with it. Like when you become an addict, you just start using or doing what it is you're going to do because you want to cope that way with the problems you're having, the mental distress, etc. I think it was just a whole lot of things going through. She didn't have her family. She was by herself. She no longer has her husband. Her son had gone to Miami. Her whole family is in Miami. I
Yeah.
think she kept saying throughout the entire documentary she was lonely. She had no friends to talk to. I don't know. I wouldn't pinpoint just the alcohol. I think it was just a lot of things together. People are strong, but when you throw so many shit at them, you can only be as strong as you can be.
Yeah. And every person has their breaking point.
Yes.
And sometimes what happens is that there can be a situation where most people would view it and be like, well, that's not a big deal. People break up all the time. People get divorced all the time. But the reality is that we also don't know how folks cope with issues on their own. Like in my
Exactly.
situation, I'm not the type of person who would normally talk about problems. I always am the type of person who has to have his shit together and things of that nature. So I think because I bottle up so many things, this was a crack or a piece of weight on the scale that just caused other shit to crack and caused me to crack at the same time. And so in her instance, again, I don't know her, but I definitely can see how that could cause an issue for a person. And for instance, what DJ Booth talked about how he didn't really understand the depth of the issues until
Mhm.
the date when she actually fell out on camera when she was wearing
Oh
the
my god,
Statue of
I
Limit.
remember that.
Now I remember that
Me too.
from all the memes and shit on
Right.
Instagram where
That's
people were
how I
making fun of her.
remember it. Yeah.
Right, but I never, I didn't pay attention to it.
Me
I just
neither.
thought maybe she was just overworked and yah yah yah,
I at first I thought she was making it up.
and that's what a lot of people thought. And he said that he thought it was acting too. He said that he thought it was acting, but then it became readily apparent that she was not playing games because then the crew and all that was running to her, and they had to call the ambulance and things of that nature. And then that's when he said that she started talking about Graves' disease, I
Right.
think, and that was related to like the bulging of the eyes. If you notice,
And
if
then she
you
comes back on the show and
yeah.
talks about it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what he was talking about it. But he also said that he believes that the infidelity caused her to break down and wholeheartedly because of the pandemic. Because there was no production. She didn't want any people around her because of her Graves' disease. And the only person that she said that she would allow around her was DJ Booth. And so he was like, that's when he was the cast, the production, and everything. And he was holding up cue cards behind her, basically
I
saying,
remember.
stay on track.
I still think it's I don't know because I'm not no medical person, but I
Yeah.
honestly think that it's the passing of her mom. This person was her best friend throughout the entire documentary. When they mention her mom, oh, it's making me very emotional. It's they talk about how she's her best friend, and even after they sit there and she goes back to her parents' house, and she's so happy to just be back home because they can talk about her mom. They can talk, and it just made me mention because now you mentioned about yourself going through the breakup. I remember how you were when you lost your grandmother, which to you was a mom to you, in you had your own mom. You loved her so much, but you were able to eventually, because nobody can ever get over losing somebody, especially
Yes.
somebody that means so much to them. But I was just trying to see when she passed away in 2020, which was around the time that COVID happened.
Right.
I don't think she had the time to mourn her, to just face the fact that that lady was not going to come back. She wasn't going to have her best friend. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think maybe there was some lack of ability to really cope with it. And I think that
Mhm.
had to immediately go right back to work, essentially. The theme I got from the family, again, I don't know, was that the show, even when she was going through her health things, the theme that I got from the show, from the documentary, from the family, was that the show was trying to force her to continue to work and do all this. And I get it. There's people who are dependent on you, but I do think that they could have did this kind of guest host thing earlier on, where they could have allowed her to take the time that she needed to try to heal as much as possible so that she could gather her thoughts, gather her things together and her mental faculties so that she can then go back and do what she normally does, right? Which is the shit on the show, even though I never
Right.
should. Yeah. Um, but DJ Booth did say this, and I didn't know about this until the documentary, where he said that the lowest point was when she went to the hospital and she had to get 3 blood transfusions. Do you remember that part?
Yeah, I remember him mentioning that.
And they really didn't give us detail as to why, but then the nephew Travis said that he believed that it was a combination of just letting her lay in the bed and drink and not do anything and not do any movement. And it was at that point that DJ Booth said that he had to leave the show because he could no longer be a part of it, because it was no longer the fun, energetic
Right.
aspect of it, and he wanted her to take time to heal herself, type of thing.
Yeah.
What it so what
Wait,
about
we got to mention the niece when she saw the Sean.
Yeah, but before we get there, remember when I want to talk about the nail technician.
Oh, when she went to the house and was doing her nails, and she's like,
Yes.
she's mad at me.
Yeah. So you want to talk a little bit about that
I
scene?
don't really remember what she said to the girl.
Remember she yelled at so the girl was
But
doing
why
her
was she yelling?
nails. It wasn't even doing like they wasn't fake nails. It wasn't, it was just clear polish. I think she put 2 coats of the clear polish on there. And the girl was basically saying, "Look, this is to protect the nails and to keep them longer." And Wendy was like, "No, I only want one. Take this off. Take this off of me now. Take this off."
Oh
And so
God.
she started yelling at the girl, and the girl was like, "Okay, lady, calm down." And then Wendy looked at her and said, "Are you stupid?" Remember?
I don't remember that, but I remember her saying, she's mad at me. She's mad at
Yeah,
me.
and that's when she said she's mad at me, and she said, "Young people, they got to learn anyhow."
But that's what I'm saying. Like you could still see parts of, I guess, what they claim was Wendy. And then it would be like you would still see the parts, and then all of a sudden you would see her down in the bed, not wanting to get up, getting mad because she got mad with the manager
About the
at some
alcohol.
point. No, she just remember when he kept coming to the house and asking her questions, and
Oh yeah.
he was asking her to get up, and she was just like mad at him for no reason. I don't know. It
Mhm,
again, it was just a sad, very sad documentary. I remember before I even watched it, in the mornings I listened to the Steve Harvey show,
mhm.
taking Lauren to school, and they were mentioning the documentary. And I remember Shirley saying that like they shouldn't have done it. It just puts her in a light, in a very bad light, where people just like, wow, that's not Wendy. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna watch it because I really want to see exactly what the documentary is saying. And I wish like I didn't, because we talk about it and then I keep seeing things going on about the documentary, and it's just sad because I think that if they truly would have known that she had dementia or the beginning of dementia, I don't think
Right.
they would have gone through with the entire documentary.
So, but when did they find out? You think they found out during the course of the filming, or you think they knew about it before?
I think it was after she took that break. Wasn't it after that break that they came back? There was like a thing on the TV that said producers were made aware
Yeah.
of her
Do
situation.
you
I think it was then.
do you think it's true though?
Honestly, I think so. I think that, again, I don't know. To me, the family knew the documentary was happening and they were part of it. I think that they kept it from the producers because they wanted to show, like maybe you mentioned, hey, this is what's going on, but the financial guardianship shouldn't have never been put in place. But I think
Oh,
after they realized that she had to go to that wellness center, they had to disclose the fact that she had it. Because remember how they were saying when they were interviewing them, but did you know that she had dementia? And the family was like, yeah, we did. We knew that she had
yeah.
early beginnings or whatnot. So why didn't you guys mention it?
So I think two things. What we don't know is when the family, in relation to when they started filming
Right.
and when the family started filming. And we don't know if they spliced it in,
That's true.
and we
The
don't
editing
know,
and all that.
right, and we don't know if the family actually learned about it after her second stint in the
I don't think so.
wellness center or not. Because after the first wellness center stint, no one mentioned about dementia. It wasn't until after the Los Angeles Los Angeles trip, and
Right,
she
because
went,
remember, she went home. She went to them to Florida
yeah.
after that first one. So she was just happy to be home, happy to have people to talk to. She was with her father. You know what I mean? I don't think that they felt it was necessary to disclose it, but I don't know, man. I think they knew. It's just
Well,
my
yeah,
opinion.
and maybe they did know, but here's the most important piece of this, I think, is that I think what the documentary highlighted, if true, again, we don't know how they edited it, is that in addition to the Guardian being responsible for the financial aspect, the Guardian also purportedly um, set up a healthcare advocate for
For
Wendy, where that
appointments. Yeah.
person was responsible for taking her to the doctors and things of that nature. And as part of this guardianship, as I understand it, again, without having benefit of looking at any of the court documents, is that she had to see certain doctors.
Mhm.
And according to Wendy herself in the documentary, she
Yeah,
said,
she got mad.
yeah, she was pissed because I got to see three doctors.
Three doctors.
There's a mental doctor, there's this doctor, and it's all
She
because of
said,
this.
the only one I need to see is my thyroid doctor.
Yeah. And this is all because Wells Fargo got my money stuck in the bank and I can't use it. I can't even use my American Express card and this, then the third. But I think part of what I gathered from, at least from the interactions of the family talking, is that they felt that there was a disconnect from the duties of the guardian and
Mhm.
ensuring from a health perspective that she was receiving the necessary help that she needed versus it almost appeared as if the family was indicating, and again, they did not say this, but I'm just reading between the lines,
Right.
is that these appointments were more focused on trying to maintain the guardianship and control of the money versus trying to give her what
Her
she
health.
needed,
Yeah.
which was this health aspect of it, the mental, the emotional, and all that type of help that they were having. So let's talk about some of the characters, though. We highlighted some of the folks, but I want to talk about Will. And I think it'll be better if we just talk about them individually and give our opinions about some of the things that were going on in the documentary because we can't talk about everything in the documentary or this episode would be too long. So let's
Right.
start with the manager.
Well,
How did Will become her manager, according to the documentary?
I think he mentioned that did her jewelry. Didn't he? What is the word?
He
Like
was
sponsor or something?
a curator, or he was gathering, like getting jewelry for her and bringing it back. And then it says that he became her manager after the husband left
That's right.
because they
That's
started
right.
as friends. Now, I don't want to be too, but it seemed like that relationship started off.
I didn't see that. I remember you mentioning when we were watching it, but for some reason I don't see it.
Because remember, there was one part where on the thing where she was like, "Let's go upstairs to him,"
Yeah,
and
but come on
and
now.
then she told the cameraman, and she was
You
like,
stay down here or something
"No,"
like
and
that.
then no, she said, "And then you can come up later." but she was saying it like
No,
that.
I
Yeah,
don't think so.
yeah. I don't know. It looked a little iffy.
But I will say this, and some people may disagree, but I think that his purpose of being here was more of, I want to put myself also out there, like the Sean Sonati, whatever her name is. What is
Hmm.
it, Sean Sonati?
Sean,
But I think that he truly cared for her in his own way.
I agree, but he was annoying because
He
he.
cared for her well-being. Let me put it that way.
I would agree. I felt like he was, but I also felt like he was trying to do too much.
In what part?
She wasn't ready. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. She just wasn't ready. Think about,
Remember, the only business deal he was trying to get her was the podcast.
well, purportedly, well, we don't know all this other stuff that was going on, but he did say that. He said the podcast feels like what he said, that he feels that it's going to be the heartbeat of her new phase. First
And
of
I
all,
kind
they've
of
been talking about
agree.
yeah, but they've been talking about this podcast for forever, and she ain't come up with one episode. And
Nobody
remember,
wants it. And
well,
nobody
we're,
wants to put her through that.
remember though, I mean, your podcast don't have to be video. You can talk and just put that audio out.
Really, we're talking about Wendy Williams. She told you throughout the
I
entire
know,
show she wanted her show back. I
but
mean,
but
she
she
wanted
also
to give, what is it that she kept saying? I want to give my audience she said something about the wigs.
she want to
And
take off the wig. She want to put her feet on the table so they can see her lymphedema. She wants to just like be, but not all of that further highlighted the disconnect because she don't even know what a podcast is. And it was clear she didn't because she asked him, "Well, would I be able to interact with with the audience?" And I'm like, "This ain't a show, girl. This is a
I mean,
podcast."
they
Now,
can call though.
they
They can,
certainly
if she's doing
could,
it live.
but he didn't make that. He didn't appear as if that was what they were doing,
Yeah.
right? And the one part that he irritated me is when he would sit down on the camera. He'd be like, "Do I look like money?" And I'm like,
That
"Bruh,
irritated me too.
yes, like
And I see myself before,
before we
before,
start,
like, dude, shut up. Like,
bruh."
you're not that, you're not Idris Elba. Please come
Right.
on now. Sit down.
And then there was that part where him and Sean were talking about the podcast, and Sean was basically the publicist was basically like, "So everybody's excited about this, and I keep have to basically hold off all these questions about it. Can we get a pilot shot?" And then his concern was whether or not shooting a pilot would taint future deals. Remember?
I don't remember that, but I think that he saw between the lines of Sean, and so anything that Sean would say irritated him. Because every time she would talk, I don't know if you would notice that it would end up in somebody raising their voice, like him raising their voice at her.
Yeah, I yeah I
But don't you agree though that if they would have shot a pilot thing, it could have shut it down, because she's not someone, they would have to edit this entire podcast to make it seem like she's in her right mind.
Well, if they would have caught, I think that if they would have caught her at a good day, there were moments on the documentary where I felt like she was on a good day, like when she was down there with her family.
Nah, now I'm talking. Now I'm gonna tell you, like you said earlier, they probably edited it
If he felt that way, then that begs the question: how is the podcast going to be the heartbeat of the new phase if she can't sit and do a pilot?
because you edit it. You edit it, so you're only gonna put the parts where she's okay, and maybe you'll put one or two as making it seem like the old Wendy. You know what I
Look,
mean?
I don't think it would taint if she was in her right mind. Shooting a pilot would not taint it. If anything, it would get people excited and get folks who
I
want to give
That
her
too.
a deal. But remember, in that same vein, he asked the producer, "Well, yeah, I think she's ready. Do you think she's ready?" And what did the producers do?
Nope. They shook their head.
The lady was like, she was shaking her head apparently like 40 times.
Because I think he asked, "Why you shaking your head?" or "You got your answer," or something
Right.
like that. He said.
And then the producer kind of asked him, "Well, aren't you concerned that she can barely express herself? So how can she do a podcast?" So I don't think she's ready. And his response was basically, "She ready," which parallels with Travis, the nephew. Remember, I don't know if you
Yeah,
remember, and
they were
he
like,
he
"She's not ready,"
right, and he talked about the fact that there are people around her
pushing her.
pushing her to do these business deals and continue to engage when in fact she wasn't ready
I
to
agree.
do these business deals. And you can even go to the driver, Jamel Nesville. You want to talk a little bit about her driver?
Well, I'm surprised the driver didn't lose it on her,
Oh,
because I would have.
I would have dropped her ass off and be like, okay, you got to go, girl. I'm
She
done.
wanted to get her. Is it a what is it? A e-cigarette
Yeah,
or
little vape
a
pens.
vape pen? But I think that in her mind, the way she remembers it is we leave the show, we leave the Wendy Williams show. I don't know if you remember though that she kept referring to it as the Sherry. What's the lady's name that
Well, she kept going back and forth. Wendy Williams and then Sherry Shepherd show. Yeah.
Sherry Shepherd, because she got her time slot, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
she have her time slot? So she said we have to go through there first, and then we have to stop by the shop. But I think it's because that's how she remembers it in her head. We would go from the show, and then we would go through the block, and we would get to the shop.
But
And
they
he's
did
like,
that
"I
50
did that.
times.
I know." He was like, "I did that," and she's like, "No, did you go through the Wendy show?"
And then he said he worked for her about a year. She fired him twice,
Yeah,
and she fired him because she wanted him to take her to get more drinks, and he refused.
right.
And so she fired him.
But he was still
Um,
there.
and he's still there. And then what he did say is he said honestly to the producers, he says, honestly, I think she's losing her mind. Like she's losing memory. Don't and he asked them, don't you think that? Don't you see it? And out of all those people around her, outside of her family, and when I say all those people, Will, Sean, and the driver, he was the only one that clearly stated it what it was, is that there is some cognitive issues here. There obviously there's something going on. She's losing her memory. She doesn't remember things. And
Giving you the entire signs. The fact that she kept telling him leave from here, do the block, and go back again is a indication of I've experienced dementia because of my grandmother,
right.
and that's exactly how it would be. They will repeat the same things over and over again, and they will get mad when you try to tell them
Well,
we've already done that.
you want to give the example that when you cooked your grandma something?
Oh, I made her. It's like a codfish stew. We call it bacalao guisao, and because that's what she wanted, and that's what my aunt had told me because I was watching her. The home attendant that she had at the time, I guess, had requested some time off, and my aunt couldn't stay with her because she had some things to do. So they had asked me if I could go watch her.
I
So I
remember
had
that.
left
Yeah.
the kids over with my mom. It was for Martin Luther King. I would never forget. And I went to watch her, and they wanted me to make her codfish stew, bacalao guisao. And so, but bacalao, if you've ever cooked it, it's very salty. So you have to leave it. It's very salty. So normally, well, the way in my house they would do it is they would actually put it on water from the day before and then periodically change the water so the salt can come out. Well, that's what I did. And so I cooked it for her. The minute she took the first bite, she spit it out. This is salty. And she got mad at me. Like she literally wanted to throw it at me. You can't try to stop them because it makes them worse. Like it would make her mad, like
Yeah.
really mad. So you have to let it calm down and yes, I'm sorry, it's salty. Give in to whatever it is that she was saying just to calm her down. So I can see how he knew something is not right because she's asking me to keep giving the same
Loop,
round
same loop.
around the block and you
And
know
and then that was at the same time when she kept sending Sean in the store to get the same vape,
and
and she
Shauna
kept
was
screaming.
bringing her because the people remembered her and they were
Yeah.
like, "This is the one she gets," and she's like,
And
"No, this is not it."
she went there like 50 times, and then she was like, "Take this back! I don't want it. Take it back, and you bet not be more than 2 seconds."
Oh gosh, poor Wendy.
What about Sean taking her to
Oh gosh.
Los Angeles? What do you think about that?
First, she didn't tell nobody. Well, she didn't tell nobody that she was doing it, but they had discussed it
Who's they?
earlier. Sean and Wendy.
Right. And Wendy kept saying, "I want to stay there 2 weeks." No, you know what? We're gonna make it 3 weeks. And Will asked taking my alcohol. Excuse me, sir. That's my
Oh
alcohol.
my god, you
Excuse me,
sound
sir.
like her.
And she was like, and he's gonna when he find out I'm gonna be in California, he's gonna be godsmacked.
Yeah, he was.
So Sean purported they were planning this, right? So she takes her to Cali. No one knows she's in Cali. Apparently, there was some other business deal that they had going on, and Will
Well,
called.
did they though? Because the only thing they went over there for was for that.
No, I'm talking about
Oh, oh,
Will.
oh, oh.
Remember, he called and said, "You're supposed to be here because we're supposed to be
Oh, that's
meeting with
right.
someone."
That's right.
And he was like, "Where are you?" And she was like, "Well, I'm in California." So he was like, "What the hell are you doing in California? You didn't get your ass on a plane."
She
Blah,
hung
blah, blah.
up on him.
She hung up on him. So then he calls Sean. But before we get there, let's talk about Sean takes her to this restaurant. And what does she have her do?
She over here drinking. Wait, let me.
Over there, having her, allowing her to order alcohol, not stepping in, knowing that Will and other folks have indicated that her
Didn't
son
she order
Kevin,
another drink though?
yes,
And Sean looked at her like
and did not say anything.
it was almost like, should I stop her or should I not? Let
Did
me
not
just
say
let her go.
anything, right? And then remember when she asked her if she wants to go to the Oscar party? And
Yes.
Wendy was like, "What's that? What can I wear?" Or something. And then
She was like, "Can I wear this?" And she was like, "No, you have to dress up." And she's, "No, then we're not going."
so the whole point was that Sean was purportedly setting her up with some kind of meeting with which
Was it
executive?
NBC?
NBC or
I
something
thought
like
it
that.
was NBC that
Yeah,
she mentioned.
NBC. To talk about this new show idea that she was going to have. And apparently, the new show is supposed to be about her taking off her wigs and putting her feet on the table and showing the lymphedema, and all this other stuff. And they left the meeting, and Sean in the interview was talking about how excited the people were, and this. And I'm like, girl,
I know, like, come on. I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't like her. I'm sorry.
I don't think
Um,
no one did. Her niece didn't.
you
That we
were,
know for sure.
oh yeah, you were talking about that interaction.
Well, when the niece came that you mentioned earlier, she was just so happy to see Wendy again. And they had asked her, what do you think is the first thing she's going to do? And she said she's going to hug me. She's going to tell me about the food and whatnot. And it was so sad because when she got there, Wendy was having trouble actually watching the TV. And when she sees her, she's like, "Oh, hi." Like, just so disinterested in even seeing her, or like she wasn't even happy to see that she was there. I don't know. That's just the impression that I got. But they start talking, and then Wendy mentions Sean, and she's like, "Oh, she's sleeping right now." And then she calls her, and Sean comes in the room. And you can tell from the face of Denise immediately, she was like it almost looked like, why is this bitch in here?
Uh-huh.
And she stopped. It's like her whole energy it changed, and she stopped talking. And then she said, I'll be back. She took her coat and then she left and told the producer she couldn't do it. Like, she just comes out here and sits on the sofa. This is my time with my aunt.
I need
Not
her here.
exactly. And she literally said, get her out. And they took her out.
Right, and then she was trying to ask Wendy questions about how did you even meet this girl? How did they become friends? Do you remember what Wendy said?
I don't remember. Mm-mm.
So she said, remember, she said that Sean said that because she asked Sean, well, how did you become involved with my aunt? And Sean said that when the whole guardianship issue was dropping, that the Wendy's attorney reached out to her for the
Yeah, I remember that.
publicity aspect to handle the publicity with that. And then remember, Wendy said to her niece, which I think caused Alex. I'm talking like we
Yeah,
best
yeah,
friends, like I know her. But
like
Alex
she's
was
your sexy BFF, like she mentioned Will.
right. But Wendy said, I don't know. She started off as a publicist, and apparently she also knows stuff about finances. And that's when Alex's eyes went up because it's like, what the fuck? This is a
Mm,
publicist, but yet she knows something about finances, like
I
she's an
remember that.
accountant. Because remember, the niece, Wendy told the niece that Sean had told her that there was no money in the bank account at Wells Fargo. Remember?
Oh, I don't remember that
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. But I don't understand. I didn't understand that whole dynamic of Sean. I didn't understand the point of
Me
her
neither.
being there.
Yeah, well, the point was she wanted the look. She's a publicist. She wanted the publicity. She wanted honestly. There was no
Yeah,
purpose to a publicist. What's the reason of you being on the show? I can understand Will being on the show. He's the manager, so he has to deal with her every single day. The other lady, I don't think they mentioned her name, and if they did, I didn't write it, but she was helping Will.
right.
Whenever Will couldn't go, she was there. I can understand her purpose of being on the show. What was your purpose? You had no purpose being there.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what her point on the team was because, quite frankly, I don't think from a publicity standpoint, I don't think there was any good counter publicity
Exactly.
going on at the time. When I was looking at social media, I didn't see anything really
Me
like
neither. It
popping
was
off.
all bad stuff of people
Right.
talking about the documentary.
Right, exactly. So I do want to highlight some of the things that the son was saying and your perspective. First of all, do you think that he was taking advantage of his mom financially?
No, I on that I agree with you. I don't think that he was. I think that he was just doing what she would ask him. Although I know there's a part where they mention a certain amount of Uber Eats.
Like $100,000. But then the nephew basically said, but that's chump change because she would give him his birthday was $120,000. His this, that, and that and the third. And I think, and Wendy does talk about how she everything is for him. So I don't know. I think she just bored him. And what he said,
Right.
one thing that he said was that because she was always working, she essentially wasn't there as much, and he felt that she was trying to show his her love to make up for that time by the money, giving him stuff.
I don't think that financially he was taking advantage. Honestly, I think I mentioned this to you when we were watching the documentary. I felt like, and maybe it's because of the editing, right? Who knows? Because we weren't there throughout the entire documentary, but I honestly felt like the nephew was more concerned and worried than the son. It was just my impression. And I know you were
You,
like, no.
you made that at the end. You said that because they were at the. You talking about when they went back down to Florida and she wanted
Well,
to.
yes, but I also say that because how often did you see the nephew talking? The nephew talked a lot throughout the documentary. Like we first see him in the documentary before we even see Alex and before we even see the son.
Yeah, but remember, we also have to keep in mind we don't know the court documents. It appears as if the son has been accused of some wrongdoing with her money financially. Because remember, they moved him as power of attorney after the guardianship
They took
came
it all
in.
away
They
from him.
took all of his income away, so she can't give him any money. And recently, there was something on social media where he had some kind of eviction in his Miami apartment, but he was able to get the money to this is just recent was able to get the money to pay the rent so they won't get evicted. So I see it. I hear you. I think because the nephew, the niece, and the sister all said that when he was taking control of her health, making her food because he was a vegan, taking
Mhm.
care of her, making sure she had no alcohol, she was in one of her best states at that time. And I can see why he probably didn't really want to participate in this documentary to make him seem worse than what folks may have already thought about him. Because people have indicated that he's the reason that this guardianship had to come. And so, if you've been accused of wrongdoing, because we don't know what the documents say, we don't know what kind of accusations are made against him. But I don't think everything that he said in his, I'm calling the confessional or his interviews, I got the sense that he was really concerned about his mom. I also got the sense that he was exhausted. I don't know. It is exhausting to deal with someone who kicks you out the house basically because they're trying to help you. They're
It's a
trying to
mood swing. You never
right,
know when this person is going to be in a good mood. You never know when this person wants to fight. You don't
right.
know.
And remember, keep in mind that they said when he first came on, the last time he saw his mom was like 8 months prior.
Well, nothing you've mentioned so far has changed my mind.
I
I don't take away from the fact that I do believe, honestly, I do believe he's exhausted because throughout the documentary, when they would talk about her situation and stuff, you can tell he's tired. You can tell that it's taking a toll on him. But I just feel like the times that we see him with her, I don't know. I felt like the nephew was more. I don't know. I just felt like he was more worried than the son. But it could be he was exhausted. It could be he's tired. Heck, I don't blame him. But it takes a toll, and he's a very young person in his 20s. So maybe it did take a toll on him. I don't know, but that's just my opinion. I think the nephew showed more concern than the son.
and does that fall in line that you felt that the niece showed more concern than the son, more
Um,
concerned than the son as well?
With the niece, I think the entire family is worried. I don't want to take that away from them. I think the entire family is very concerned with everyone that's around her and everything that's going on. I'm just talking about the way the documentary portrayed them when they were talking. I felt like it was more highlighted on the nephew, and the times that the niece was there, it was more as if she gave you answers where she didn't want to discuss too much. So she kept it where I'm gonna tell you what you're asking me and I'm gonna leave it like that. Whereas the nephew was like, this is what you're asking me, but I'm gonna tell you exactly how I think it is and what I think it's going on. So I think she was just more keeping it by the book. Maybe the son was just like that too, trying to keep it by the book, not trying to give too much information out. Maybe
Hmm.
it was. But I felt like the sister at the end and the nephew showed more passion on she needs help. She needs to get the help. She needs to be around her family. She needs to be around us.
Hmm.
Even the brother, her brother, I honestly at one point felt like the brother wasn't taking it seriously, even when they were in that restaurant.
Now, I that's the one piece about the family that I think I will agree on you with.
The
I
brother,
felt like the brother was giddy about
especially
it.
when he's like, well, you can't do it now. And it was almost like he was telling her, but you can go to the bathroom and do it in the bathroom. Like I can give you a little bit of the drink and you can go drink it in the bathroom. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, but remember the part the sad part is when they sat at the restaurant and she called her
The
brother her
son.
son,
Yeah.
Kevin.
And he kept on with it too.
Yeah. But I don't know. Maybe they all would plan different parts to bring in the family's perspective. But I can see why you would have the opinion that
No, you can't. Stop lying to
well,
your listeners.
now that you said the way the documentary portrayed it. Okay, what about the sister?
I love the sister actually. I
Why?
think she would be so fun to hang out with. Like like she wouldn't take BS from people.
Yeah, I agree.
Wanda Finney. I think the sister at the end said, y'all better put me in that show because I'm going to truly say exactly what's going on and what's been happening since the beginning. But you can tell the sister truly loves her and wanted to be there for her to take care of her because she mentions it. She mentions when they called about the financial guardianship and stuff, didn't they ask her if she would take care of her? And she was like, I will. And then nothing ever happened out of that.
Yeah. Did you see that Instagram post that I sent you about the husband
He was
out there?
asking for spousal support, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And
I was gonna say,
I'm like, bruh, of all the things, like if any when people break up, I don't understand where
especially famous people, when you have to pay spousal support and
yeah,
all that.
but why are you trying to I get it, but why are you trying to kick a woman when she's down? Like she's already dealing with this her health issues, and now you try to take the guardian essentially, not Wendy, to court about spousal support because I think you need more or she didn't pay. And I'm like, bro,
I
is
think
this
it was that she didn't pay.
right? Is this really the right time? And why do you really need the spousal support? Why there was some social media back and forth about why don't you just go get a job? But then some folks was like, well, why does he have to get a job? Because if he was a female and got spousal
Oh, come
support,
on,
it wouldn't be
people.
an issue. But the thing is, for me, is that eh, and that's just me as my character that I can break up with people and I still care about them as individuals and I wouldn't do things to I feel like to be intentionally hurtful and I get it that you need your money and maybe there was an agreement and the agreement has been breached that's different understand but it just seemed too soon like why this if you were not paid, why wait to after the documentary? Why don't you do this before? Like the documentary was going on. Obviously, you were not being fucking paid then. So why not do it then? That's my question.
I
You know what I
agree.
mean? Like what's the motivation behind it? It's so irritating. And again, I didn't pull the documents because I just got so irritated. But I'm like, what's the point of doing it now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
Even when you mentioned the son got evicted, it immediately I was like, well, did the father try to do anything? Like,
right.
where was the
Why
father?
are you but we don't know. Again, I don't
Right.
know where you got the money from. But overall, I think the documentary for me, again, I never liked her in the sense of, oh my God, she's great, right? I never really watched her like
Me
that. But
neither.
it did make me see her in a different light. It
Same here.
also it also made me realize that in the drop of a hat, something can happen to someone. And people were on Instagram talking about karma and it's coming back to bite her because she was nasty sometimes in her approach. But that was her approach. People knew what they were getting. There's no hold bars type of approach with guests and things of that nature. But I don't, whether it's karma or not, at the end of the day, it's still a person who deteriorating. Now, at the end, what we do hear from the sister is that while she's in this wellness center, because part of the documentary is still filming, but it's really just them filming Will, who's giving them updates because she's in a center.
Right.
But there's the sister indicates that there's calls been made from Wendy where she is lucid. They're working on her cognitive, trying to figure out what's the triggers to cause these things.
She even calls her
Right.
at one
And we
point.
don't hear it though, because the sister won't
Well,
tell
we
us.
we hear the beginning,
But we don't
and
hear
then no,
we
but
don't
she
hear the
sounded like she
was
she was,
regular.
yeah, like happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wish the best for her. I don't know if there's
Too.
anything else that we really need to highlight episode. What do you
No,
think?
I don't think so. I think I agree with everything that you said. It
Except
just,
for about the son, but go ahead.
and again,
I played, I
I don't
played, I
take
played, I
away
played, I
from
played, I
you that
played.
he cares. I agree. I see we see her deteriorating and something really is going on with her, and I don't know. I think that I agree with the nephew. There are people that just want to take advantage of her, and those people
Yeah.
need to be removed from.
Yeah.
I
And
think they have been removed, but
yeah, I think they are no longer associated with her
well,
apparently
the
after the documentary.
manager and the
Sean,
publicist, right?
what Sean should have never been affiliated with
Right.
her, but whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
I will say this is that we are giving our opinions about how it's portrayed in the documentary about people
Right.
taking advantage. And I will say that sometimes what happens is people think they're doing the right thing for a person and not putting in check that they are also thinking selfishly about
Mhm.
themselves. And so I now with Sean, I don't really have anything positive to say about her and the views that I saw, what we saw of her. I
Right.
think that she was an enabler. She was not helpful. And I actually think she lied a couple of times on there in regards to what was going on. She tried to act like, for instance, she didn't know what was going on with the California trip. Basically said that Wendy called her, was like, get me out of here because they trying to do this
Right.
when
But
they
y'all
were
were
just
just
planning it.
talking.
Yeah, y'all was just
Exactly.
planning it. Like, girl, you knew what was going on.
And there's no
And
way that could have been editing because
right.
you
And you
literally
came
went
from
there.
California. You came from California to New York to take her
Exactly.
to Cali. Um, yeah. So you know, and Will, I think that he was trying his best. I think there
I
he
agree.
was doing his job as a manager. I think,
Yeah.
in sense of trying to get deals. And again, it did seem as if Wendy was insistent on moving forward and doing things. But I do think that at some point, to people should have taken a moment to pause
Yeah.
to say, look, we want these things for you. We want them to align. We want them to go into the basket, but we don't think that we can start filling these baskets at this moment because the
I agree.
priority should be let's get you together.
Our
Let's
health.
make
Yeah.
right. Let's make sure that when you step in front of the spotlight, in front of people, recognize who you are in the sense of Wendy Williams, the force to be reckoned with, versus this Wendy Williams who's in the bed crying, looking a hot mess with the same robe on and looking like she ain't
Where the
shower
house smelling because the
of
cats
the
are
cats and
all
all of that. And I just think they did a very shitty job of protecting her image in
I
this
agree.
documentary.
I agree.
And I'm saying the folks who were there, who were supposed to be there to handle her business, that's part of your job. I understand that this is a documentary, but if someone was trying to do a documentary on me and I have a team, that fucking team better make sure I look good in the sense of I can still tell the truth, but I need to be in a good space. I need to be in a good light. I need to be coherent and not showing me in this.
And not look like I don't know what's going on because that's
Yeah,
what she looked like. Like,
right. And I can't blame Will because he didn't live with her. She lived by herself, but I don't know if there was some maid there. I don't know what's going on, but I just felt like she needs, to the point of what everyone in the family said, she needs people around her because I don't think she can be by herself, right? Not that she can't take care of herself. I think mentally, the silence of being alone creates an avenue where you then look for vices to deal with,
right.
right? Because even me, I'm an empty nester now. Davion isn't here. Yes, I have my cat. Yes, I have my dog.
Yeah,
But
but they
even
don't talk to you. It's not
exactly
somebody
there,
to
when
have a
I was
conversation.
correct, when I was going through shit, like I didn't have a person who I could just hang out with and
Yeah.
make me laugh and do all that, those
Or
types
even
of things.
cry with. There are times
Right,
when you just want someone to sit there, listen to me and hear me cry.
right,
That's all you need.
right. And so I understand how deafening silence can be for people.
Mhm.
And
Especially
so
people like her
right.
that you can
So
tell
you
that she was right.
right.
Exactly.
And one difference between she and I is that I could throw myself into work, which is why I
Right.
worked,
She
and she
yeah.
couldn't because she did not have that avenue at that time. Now, that begs the question, should if should they have been trying to get her engulfed in this podcast? And I'm not saying for purposes of putting it out, but for purposes of having her do something so that her mind is outside of sitting in
Exactly.
this bed looking at these four walls. And so now I need to go get Tito Prentice so that I can deal with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it could have been an opportunity for them to do pilots and shoot pilots and just try to talk about the particulars of how to do a podcast. What should you be doing? And then showing her, okay, look, this is how you look at here. Let's redo this. And I think maybe that could have given her some kind of
Motivation.
perspective, motivation to
Mhm.
get her mind off of whatever was the triggering
I agree.
aspects to get her in this thing. They should have called me. Next time, people, let me know. I'm here for you.
Yeah, okay.
Anything else you want to say about this
No,
episode?
I think you've mentioned everything. And I agree with everything that you've mentioned so far. And again, I even still agree with with the son. It's just certain things the way I saw it, but I think you've mentioned it all. And I really just pray that I really pray that she's back with her family. I think that's exactly where she needs to be,
I think so,
around
and
people that
I think the guardianship, and I can't. I know the guardianship had sued, trying to stop the documentary, but that was ultimately dismissed. And I can't put any fault on the guardianship. The guardian, I don't know her personally, but I think there is value. There's a lesson here, and I think the auntie, not the auntie, the sister said this. I think there's value in having someone who is a third party, who has no connection with her involved, but I think that it should have been a joint venture between someone in family, whether that's a sister and then this third party, so that they can jointly make decisions. And when there are certain decisions that need to be made and they can't agree, one of the other will have the veto power. In this instance, more
right.
likely than not, it would be the third party. But I do think a combination of the two would have been a better approach in this instance, to try
I
to
agree.
give her what she needed, because family know you, family can take advantage of you. Let's be clear. But this having this dual perspective, I think, would have alleviated in some respects the perspective that family is taking advantage of her money, if
Right.
because you have this third party also engaged.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that is episode 88 as Let's Talk About Wendy. As always, my name is Sean. It is a pleasure to be back behind this thing. We haven't recorded in a moment. So
You've
hopefully
been really
we,
busy.
yes, I've been busy and haven't been in the mood, but I'm trying to get back into the swing of things. And it is Aries season, baby. Birthday is coming up April the 14th. Let's get this party going. So yeah, I also would like to thank Denise.
You're very welcome.
Anything you want to say at the end?
No, I'm glad to be back too. I don't think it was more of your motivation. I think honestly, you truly didn't have time because you've been out of state for a while now.
Been gone a lot.
But yeah, I'm glad that we are back.
All right. You can you
Uh,
can get us on Facebook at Peeps Creek Cafe. You can get us on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, X, whatever the fuck it's called. Even though I don't even use it for real, at Peeps Creek. You can watch us on YouTube at Peeps Creek Podcast. You can go to the website, get all the transcriptions as well as the videos, as well as the audio, www.peepscreek.com. You can send us an email at cafe@peepscreek.com. Yep. So until next time, make sure that you continue to drink, listen, and converse. Peace and love.